Family Factor, the #1 cable news show for 15 years and counting.
Thanks for staying with us tonight on this special edition of the Factor Election 2016. I'm Eric Bolling, in for Bill O'Reilly. And in the personal story segment tonight, it's nearly 0 hour in South Carolina. The 6 Republican presidential candidates are furiously making last-minute pushes across the state to get voters in their corner. Joining us now from Columbia, South Carolina, Fox News chief political correspondent, Mr. Carl Cameron. Carl, probably everyone wants to know, is Donald Trump the front runner? First of all, some of the polls are tightening a little bit. Is he feeling that?
The polls are always tightening when you get close to an election day. The Fox poll had him with a big lead. There's a new poll out from Marist that suggests the lead has shrunk to 5 points, and he's in a statistical tie with Ted Cruz. For Donald Trump, it's about getting out the vote, as it is for all of the candidates. But it's interesting. Trump has also today begun sort of downplaying expectations for him for the Nevada caucuses, which follow South Carolina in the middle of next week. That's a sign that he doesn't expect to do so well in Nevada, but he does expect to win in South Carolina. The margin of his victory is important, as it will be for those who come in second and third and maybe even fourth. Ted Cruz is looking like a strong second right now. He's worked very hard in South Carolina and has worked very hard in all the southern states as well. So they all come in the Super Tuesday, March 1st date. For Cruz, the battle with Trump has been a tough one, and today he was making the assertion that Trump really doesn't know much about foreign policy, and pointed out specifically that Trump said he would be neutral in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, whereas U.S. policy and sort of foreign policy orthodoxy over the course of the last several decades has always been to support Israel, and Cruz assured voters that he would do that. Then there's Marco Rubio, came in 5th in New Hampshire, needs to do well. He's polling in 3rd, and he's a little bit behind Donald Trump, behind Ted Cruz. But in many cases, it's sort of on the margins. So there's really a very tight race between the top 3 candidates, with Trump in advantage, Cruz in 2nd, Rubio trying for 2nd but still in 3rd. The bigger question is what happens to the other half of this field. We've got 6 candidates. Yeah. John Kasich has gotten some momentum in South Carolina. His crowds have been very emotional and very pleased by his sort of positive campaigning. Jeb Bush faces the most intense pressure. Already his donors and a lot of his supporters around the country have been quietly complaining, in some cases loudly so. And if he doesn't fare well in South Carolina, the pressure on him to get out of the race could be intense. He could lose some of his big donors and some of his supporters. And Ben Carson, the doctor, has had a hard time getting a lot of news this week. He should have a strong base of support in South Carolina. He's campaigned here quite a bit. But there's usually only 3 possible contenders that get past South Carolina. Let's so the back half of the field is in trouble.
Let's play this out. Yeah, back half of the field, and let's focus in on the Bush-Rubio situation. But am I seeing this right, that Bush has to finish in front of Rubio to keep those donors in line?
That's one of the ways things are being cast here. Because Jeb Bush did well in New Hampshire, there are expectations that he needs to be able to build on that. If his momentum would go in the negative direction, that's the kind of thing that can really undercut a candidacy, even one like his that has a very well-funded independent super PAC. The Bush campaign's been burning through its own campaign money, and the super PAC's been spending a lot as well.
Carl,
they'll need to replenish those coffers, and if Rubio beats him, it'll be hard.
We're talking about momentum here. Jeb Bush brought his brother in there, invariably the biggest momentum changer available in the whole campaign. Is it working? Are people starting to gravitate to Bush because of the brother, or at all?
Well, he did get some positive buzz and a lot of attention when George W. Bush showed up on the campaign trail, but it was a few days ago. And in this minute-by-minute campaign with Twitter and social media and cable, there are some who are suggesting that it would have been nicer perhaps if George W. had showed up last night or come back. So you can hear in the voices of Bush supporters and the Bush campaign a little bit of frustration because the former president did give him some momentum, but it may not carry through.
Yeah, timing on that. That's interesting. That's actually very interesting. They may have waited another day or two, might have helped him a little bit more. Let's talk about Marco Rubio. Right. As you pointed out, he came in 5th in New Hampshire, and it doesn't look like he doesn't have a win yet. I'm going back many, many years, Carl. I can't remember a GOP nominee who hasn't won Iowa, New Hampshire, or South Carolina at all.
That's right. It hasn't happened. And as a consequence, Rubio really needs to get a very, very strong showing. He has to do better than Jeb Bush. He should probably need to do better than Ted Cruz. If he were to pull off a 2nd place, that would breathe new life into Rubio's candidacy. But He's a little bit off that pace. He's behind Cruz in the polls. Jumping ahead of him would be a big turnabout. And today, Rubio had a little bit of a problem on the campaign trail. He had planned a big barnstorming tour to hit several towns, put the press on a charter plane, etc., and they had plane problems. So he missed an event, and it slowed down the pace. And again, this is a second-by-second campaign. Any misstep can be lethal. Any opportunity to get the advantage on another opponent could catapult you into the lead. That hasn't happened so far on Friday. We've still got voting that will happen tomorrow, and all the candidates will be showing up at polling places and working until
Carl, before
the
I lose
last.
you, I don't have a lot of time.
Kasich, I should tell you, Kasich won't, and Eric, Kasich won't be here in New Hampshire. To prove that he's moving on anyway, he's going to be campaigning in Massachusetts and focusing on states like Ohio and Michigan, which much later in the process.
All right, Carl, we're going to have to leave it right there. Thank you very much.